Hello and welcome to the first in a series of special episodes of Banking You. I'm Brad Villers. So quite honestly, I've been a little bit stuck lately trying to decide on how best to move forward with this channel and its content. Up to this point I've done almost exclusively shorts, but it's only been my silky smooth voice along with some immensely clever images, and it's just felt a little sterile to be honest. So I've decided on something that I hope will provide a win-win by helping both of us learn more about the infinite banking concept as conceptualized, practiced, and taught by Nash. And I say that with great humility because I only discovered IBC fairly recently, and while I've done a fair amount of reading and think I have a decent conceptual understanding, I need to spend a lot more time on it to get to the comfort level I want to achieve. If you're not familiar with it, Becoming Your Own Banker, or BYOB, as I've heard it affectionately referred to, is a very manageable 86 pages, including the epilogue, and it's organized into 5 parts. I'm not sure how many videos I'll end up taking to cover it, but my number one priority is that each one is a compelling length, which, in my very limited experience in a world of ever-shortening attention spans, tells me is very important, with too long definitely being a turnoff for a lot of people. But they also need to be long enough to adequately cover the concepts he presents, so I won't lock myself into a specific time limit, but will certainly do my best to keep them reasonable. And I'm by no means the first person to do this, but the information is so unique, so important, and has so much potential to change lives, well, the more it's out there, the better. With that, it seems I should take my own advice and stop droning on, so let's get into the first installment of Nelson Nash's Becoming Your Own Banker. In this discussion, we're going to cover the first section of Part 1, which is his introduction to IBC. And he starts off by presenting a hypothetical situation in which the vast majority of the money in existence were to be distributed equally to the population. He says some have claimed that within 10 years' time, all of it would be concentrated and under the control of a very small group of people. And of those who have predicted that that would happen, their estimates have that money ending up in the hands of as little as 3% of the population, but he says even if it were as high as 25%, the important question is why that would happen. According to Mr. Nash, it would be because, quote, most folks know nothing about the process of banking and it's important in their lives and their well-being. And I'd have to wholeheartedly agree with him. He goes on to say that banking is the most important business in the world, and of course involves the flow of money into and out of the possession of virtually every person and organization on the planet. He then uses the analogy of water, and says it would be foolish to assume that you can look at a river flowing in one part of the world, having nothing to do with an ocean in another part of the world, because they are all connected and part of a symbiotic relationship. Something he doesn't specifically talk about, but I think is worth mentioning, is our perceptions about money. More to the point, a perception I have had about money. And that is thinking that money is inherently evil, or that even talking about it much is a bad thing or somehow incites negative vibes. I've gone through periods of believing that focusing on money and finance gives power to what I think we could all certainly agree can be a dark side, and that's embodied in greed, abuses in the name of capitalism, predatory lending, and so on. But the inescapable conclusion I've come to is that money is simply a tool, and just like anything else can be used for productive or destructive purposes. And when used in its productive form, money is one of the most helpful tools man has invented. At times I've been so dismayed by the effects of its destructive uses that I've imagined a world filled with bartering, and then come to my senses when I wondered just how I could find someone willing to accept my abundant collection of things like charging cables and notebooks, the ones I keep promising myself I'm going to journal in, for food. I'm thinking not so much. But we'll soon see that not only does this merge with Nelson Nash's philosophy because, along with the demonstrable practicality and financial wisdom of IBC, it also supports the most productive, liberating, and very practical uses of money. Well, that wraps up Nelson Nash's introduction to the infinite banking concept. Join me next time when we move on to the next section, how the infinite banking concept got started. Be well, and see you then.